Time's up. Do you know the answer?
Why, man, yes. I say roses are red.
Violets are blue.
I say somebody knocked.
We just want a dashboard. And so again, the format here, it doesn't seem to be available as a pull-down option in the menu, but we should be able to force it right here. And there's nothing in here right now that has any dashboard look to it other than these headings. I have a heading on line 6 and a heading on line 10. So the expectation here is that I'm going to have one card identified by Quarto and another card identified by running code. Let's render it and see. Let's pop it out. The first row just says Quarto enables you. And again, the dashboard, so I can pop that out if I want. So within that second row, and again, that second row is defined by level 2 heading here. It actually gave me separate information for each of these code chunks. When it sees a code chunk, it's assuming, unless you override it, assuming that that code chunk is a distinct piece of information. Let's maybe put some figures in here. Do you guys want to look up maybe some pretty figures?
Red Hot Riding Hood.
Let's just take a look at plots here and see what happens. And you may have to pop these. You may have to pop these out to get the full, especially the column and row specification. We see the iris data set is a little more complex. It has 5 variables. Now, if I wanted to force this into columns, I should actually be able to do that. As we see with most of these YAML commands, if you want to get a little more specific with the formatting of an object that you're rendering to, that tabbing and indenting does become important. The command is orientation. And I can try to force it into columns. So right now it's in rows, row 1, row 2. We'll see if this works in the YAML. You can do this outside of the YAML as well. And it doesn't look like it worked in my preview panel. But if you expand that to the full screen, then you actually see. We can add titles to these. So we can call, what is this? A bunch of flowers. And Quarto seems to be a little more forgiving of not using quotes or double quotes. So you see the card is what's actually titled there. You can add pages as well. So pages are indicated by first level headings. We call this a new page. So I have my untitled page, and then I have a new page with nothing in it right now. So if I try to access it, there's nothing in there. But we can do sidebars just by saying sidebar. And Diego and Ian are here. There we go. And we have our sidebar, which typically is data control area. So this is where you can select what you want to happen with your data. They have value boxes. We're going to identify a code chunk and just call it a value box. And then you do want to give it a title. Use a list. And in that list, I'm going to give it a few things. I'm going to give it an image. I'm going to give it a color. And then typically there's a number associated too. So we'll just give it a value. I'll just put in one that I know works, which is trash can. There's our new page. It's massive just because there's nothing else filling up the space here.
Few inches later.
So now we have 2 scale scores, so we can do a scatter plot. Let's get gender in there as well. So there should be a grouping. Option. If we add here type to scatter, mode is markers, we should be able to do color equals, and then they'd use that tilde syntax. So we'll try gender. Wow, how many genders are there? Now it looks like the Minnesota Vikings threw up. We see the age there, and so these plotly objects, upon hover, you get, we asked for age, so that number 25 that you're seeing, that's age. I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at this and see why our gender variable is rendering as a continuous variable here. So let's go ahead and in that VFI object, we'll respecify gender. We'll just write over it. So we'll do as factor. There we go. It's really kind of over plotting, so we could get a little fancier and maybe add a jitter or play with our alpha. The alpha in this context is transparency. But here we see the Plotly object. One of the neat features of Plotly, we're able to filter. But that looks a little better. It's probably something that's a little easier for us to play with. Shiny. This is the Shiny integrated dashboard that they're trying to help us with. Instead of calling up diamonds, let's just try to call up our data. And we'll see if we can add their interactivity elements to our data. Just simply by changing the setup line here. So the data set isn't the data set is our BFI object. And our BFI object is one in which we created those two different scale scores, which are summaries of 10 items each. And that's why they're called just gobbledygook and gibberish. So now we have our data set, which is our BFI object, and then we're going to have to go in here and everywhere that diamonds is implicated or an object directly from diamonds, we'll have to change it. The sample size is implicating data set, this object that we just created here on line 36. That's fine. Jitter and smooth, those are going to be specified below. X and Y are fine. Those are just taking the names out of our data set, so that should reflect all of these variables. The one that we really want to see, whoa, I don't know if that, oh, okay, it does look okay because it's plotting A1 and A2. So A1 is on the x-axis and A2, okay, good. So it's actually reading in all of our variables like we wanted it to. What we have here on the plotly is gibberish on the x, gobbleyjook on the y. So we should be able to select that. Gibberish, let me see, gobbledygook. So gibberish and gobbledygook, those are jittered. If we want to color it, we can color it by gender like it is here. Now we have more jittering. We could probably add more jittering to that if we want, because all of these commands operate just like they would if we were creating any sort of ggplot objects. We should be able to just go height and width. Uh, 0.2, I think that probably goes 0 to 1. So we'll see if we can get a little larger jitter if we activate that by just using those standard ggplot commands. And then get it fancier after you get the basics down. So gender, now we jitter it. Yeah, that's a better jitter.